Welcome back to Still Standing with Diane Six, the podcast for the messy middle, the unexpected chapters, and the moments in life that somehow become both a story and a lesson. I am Diane, and around here we talk about real life, real stories, and what those stories teach us about who we are, how we heal, how we keep moving forward, usually with a little humor. But honestly, some things are just funnier once you survive them. And today, we are going lighter. Not shallow, just lighter. Because sometimes the stories that make us laugh the hardest are also the ones that quietly reveal something deeper about identity, belonging, and the parts of ourselves that we didn't even realize we were carrying around. So today's topic is this: Yinz, apparently. If you know, you know. And if you do not, you're about to. I grew up saying Yinz. Y-I-N-Z. Not as a performance, not as a joke, not as some cute regional branding moment. I said it because that's what people say where I came from. It was normal. It seemed natural. And it was practically punctuation in every vocabulary. I didn't sit around as a child thinking, wow, that's a fascinating linguistics marker I have here. No, I was just out in the world saying things like, what are Yinz doing? As if I was completely using that sentence correctly. Which, where I'm from, it was. Then I went to college. I went to The Ohio State University. And apparently, I had brought my regional vocabulary with me as an uninvited emotional support guest. Because the first time people heard me say Yinz, they looked at me like I had either invented a word on the spot or briefly blacked out mid-sentence. Maybe I said it when I was drunk. I don't know. But they were confused. And I was confused that they were confused. Then came the teasing. Not cruel exactly, but enough to make me aware that the thing that I had said my whole life without a second thought was suddenly a thing. A noticeable thing. A funny thing. And hey Diane, say that again thing. And that is how a word that you have carried your entire life without thinking about it becomes suddenly something that you feel self-conscious about. So like a lot of people do when they want to blend in, I adapted. I started saying you guys, which felt fine, functionally, socially safer at that time, much less likely to get me stared at, like I had emerged from some coal mine holding a casserole. And for a while, I kind of just tucked Yinz away. Not because it was bad, not because I stopped being where I was from, but because sometimes it's easier to edit yourself than explain yourself. And is that not funny? How fast do we do that? How quickly we smooth out the little edges of ourselves when the room tells us that those edges are unusual. It's rarely some huge dramatic moment. It's small. It's like a word, an accent, a habit. It's part of my story and a piece of my personality. Something that felt perfectly normal until it hit a new audience. And then suddenly you start deciding what version of yourself will make people more comfortable. Now, to be clear, I survived. This is not a great trauma in my life. We are talking about a regional pronoun here. I know, I am aware. But it stuck with me because it was such a tiny example of a much bigger truth. Sometimes the world teaches you to edit yourself before you realize you are doing it. Think on that. And years later, that little word still means something to me. Not because I need to prove myself or prove my Pennsylvania, Ohio language credentials to anyone, but because it reminds me of where I came from, who I have been, and how exactly it was easy for me to trade authenticity for acceptance in ways so subtle you almost miss them. That's why I smile when I hear the word. Somebody says it from back home and somebody posts something on Facebook and I smile. I actually bought an ornament that says Yinz on it so that I could hang it on my Christmas tree and remind me. I have a sweatshirt as well that says that with the Pittsburgh background on it. It makes me feel like home. And honestly, that is probably why I ended up with a Yinz sweatshirt and this Christmas ornament so that it's always around me. Because apparently, once you survive being teased for something long enough, eventually it becomes merchandise, as it should, right? So I'm always looking for a lesson. And what this taught me is that identity is often hiding in the smallest things. Not always the big dramatic milestones, and not always the life-altering chapters, which I call life splits. Sometimes identity lives in the throwaway details. The words you say, the way you tell a story, the food you love. And gosh, I have some weird things. The weirdest habit you do not think twice about until someone from somewhere else points it out like you're a museum exhibit. Like, what? And those little things matter because they tell the truth about where you have been. They remind you that belonging is not only about fitting in somewhere new, it's also about staying connected to where you came from. I think so many of us spend parts of our lives trying to become more acceptable, more polished, more universally understandable. We round off the rough edges, just like a fingernail. We tone things down, maybe like makeup. We translate ourselves. And sometimes that's just part of navigating the world. But sometimes, if we are not careful, we start leaving behind parts of ourselves that were never a problem to begin with. Think about that. That little Yinz story taught me this. You do not have to erase your origin to grow. You do not have to sound like everyone else to belong. And the thing that makes you specific are often the things that make you the most memorable. So what does that mean for you? It means that parts of you that feel a little different may not be the parts that you need to fix. They might be the parts that you need to reclaim. Maybe for you, it's not a word. Maybe it's your laugh, your story, your background, your age, your style, your sensitivity, your sense of humor, your big, gigantic personality, your soft heart, your accent, your history, your weird little quirky preferences that make absolutely no sense to anyone else, but make perfect sense to you. Whatever it is, I think a lot of us have had moments where we quietly learn, oh, that part of me gets a reaction. And then we start managing it, shrinking it, softening and hiding it, repackaging it in a different way. But here's what I have to say today. Not everything that makes you stand out needs to be corrected. Some of it just needs to be honored. Some of it is proof that you came from somewhere real, that you've lived something, and you're not generic. And let's thank God for that, because the world does need another polished, sanded down version of you that thinks who you're supposed to be. We don't need that. It needs the version of you that actually sounds like you. Here's the question that I'm going to leave with you today. What small part of yourself have you edited to fit in that might actually deserve to come back? Is it a word, a habit, a truth? Maybe it's a style, a certain part of your personality. What have you softened, hidden, or replaced, not because it was wrong, but because it got noticed? And what would it feel like to welcome that part of you back to your life right now? Not everything different about you is a flaw. Sometimes it's just your fingerprint. Thank you for being here with me for episode 2 of Still Standing with Diane Six. If this episode made you laugh, made you think, or remind you of some part of yourself you have not visited in a while, I hope you'll share this with someone else who might need that reminder too. And if you are in a season trying to remember who you are, not who the world thinks you should be, but who you actually are, keep going. The pieces matter. The little things absolutely count. And sometimes even one word can bring you back home to yourself. Until next time, life splits and you can still stand.